for Tuesday, July 28, 2020. Could you please call roll?
Commissioner Fossen,
Here.
Commissioner Sawaya, Commissioner Hinckley will be joining us late. Chairman Kirkham,
Here.
Commissioner LeSueur,
Here.
Commissioner Mendola, Commissioner Sixta.
We don't have a quorum. We do not have a quorum.
Commissioner Sixta is here.
She is here. So we have a quorum.
Your other two commissioners just joined as well.
Okay.
I see Commissioner Sawaya is here. And Commissioner Hinckley. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay. I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you please follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next we got approval of minutes. Has everybody looked at the minutes from last meeting? All right. Any questions about the minutes? Okay. I guess we're going to have a roll call vote to do it. I'll move to approve.
Yeah, second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other consideration? Okay,
I'll second it.
No, we got a second. I'll approve. I'll move to approve. Anybody else?
Aye.
2. That is hard to do.
Commissioner LeSueur, you second the motion?
Yes, I believe so.
We need to either call for a roll
Lisa,
call.
you may have to do roll call voting so that they know to unmute themselves to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
We did lose Commissioner Hinckley and we gained Commissioner Mendola.
Okay, I can do the roll call again. Commissioner Fossen,
Here.
No, aye.
Approve.
are you approving the minutes?
I am.
And Commissioner LeSueur second the minutes.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Go ahead and do a roll call.
Do a roll call, Lisa.
Okay, Commissioner,
Lisa,
yes.
what they're asking you to do is a roll call vote. So you'll go down your roll call list and the commissioners will say aye or nay. Since we're having difficulties getting the commissioners to respond as a group, so for each of the items, that's what Commissioner Kirkham is asking for you to do.
Okay, Commissioner Fossen approved.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Sixta? Can you hear me? Commissioner LeSueur?
Aye.
Commissioner Sawaya?
Aye.
Commissioner Mendola is joining on the phone. Can I get your vote?
Yes, approve.
And Commissioner Hinckley, can you hear us? Okay.
All set?
We have approved of those that can hear us, Chairman.
Okay. I guess that's how we have to handle it. All right. Consideration of public comments. Those wishing to address the Economic Development Advisory Commission need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration or decision at a later date. Today we're doing a virtual meeting. In-person attendance is what's that say? It's suspended for this morning due to COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting will be held through the technological means. Public comments may be submitted in writing to the recording secretary via email, and that's Lisa Lewis at citykingman.gov, or bring by the city airport administration office at 700 Flightline Drive, or by mailing them to the Flightline Drive, Kingman, Arizona 86401. Comments will be accepted up to 4 o'clock on July 27th, 2020. All comments will be shared with the council and made part of the public record. Members of the public can watch or listen to the meeting via Channel 4 or on YouTube at youtube.com/City of Kingman. And that's it.
You can ask Lisa if she received one.
Lisa, did you receive any comments?
I did not.
Okay, seeing no comments, we'll move on. We got a report, Economic Development Staff report by Bennett Bradley, and I guess Sylvia's on vacation, so Gary will chime in on that. Go ahead, Bennett, please.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just kind of want to give you guys an update on, I start out typically with some rail, give you a little bit about what's going on with rail out here at the industrial park. In May of this year, we had about 532 cars that were stored, rail cars that were stored here at the park. And then Patriot Rail switched 119 cars in May. In June, we had 501 cars that were stored, and they switched 151 cars for businesses. So and that puts us right in line with past rail. You know, so we're not seeing a major uptick or downtick. It's pretty much been level. In regards to prospects, visits out here at the industrial park, we've been seeing that gradually go up quite substantially. In June, we saw 7 prospects that we submitted sites on, or they visited the park. So we've had, we get projects that are submitted, either come to us directly or they come through the Arizona Commerce Authority, and we submit properties that fit within their parameters that they're looking at. Just as an indicator of where we were prior to this, going into February of this year, we were at 3 prospects, and then March hit and we went down to 0. April, we were at 1. May came along and jumped to 5 prospects, and here we are in June, 6. And we're getting to the end of July here, and that number is even higher for July prospects. So we're seeing a lot of, you know, originally when the shutdown took place throughout the country, we saw that hit. But as time goes on and businesses are able to, you know, do what the businesses were doing prior to that, they're looking around, they're looking at potential expansions and whatnot. Another thing I want to update you on is the 1,800 acre land release that we're in the process of working on. One of the things that is required, even as we go through the FAA process, anytime you sell property worth over $1.5 million, it has to be taken to the voters. And that's ARS 9-403. So obviously, we're going to have some substantial pieces of property that businesses show interest in, and currently, some of the projects that we've been working on, they've been interested in the land that we've been in the process of getting released. And so in order to take something to the voters like that, that process, you got to have an election, and that can drag out. And so one of the things that we worked with the FAA on was to start that process now and to be able to take it to the voters in November. So back just recently, council approved on July 7th to basically vote that we had a land surplus. That was the first step. The second step was completed on July 21st, and that was to adopt the resolution to designate the election date. So that was done at that 21st meeting. All of those votes happened, and they were all unanimously approved. So in order to proceed now, the election in November is going to go to the voters, and the question is, shall we have the ability to be able to sell that property in the future? This is going to stay a lot of months. Once we get the land released from the FAA, we then won't have to go through that process. So it's going to be a substantial savings of time, and some of the business that we're working on right now are telling us that they're going to need that savings of time. We can't be pushing this out too much into the future. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
I got a question, Ben. You said that if it was under $1 million, you could go ahead and do it without voter approval, right?
1.5 million.
1.5 million.
Yes.
Do we have that many parcels that are worth that much money?
This is pretty much one big parcel, and they would have to be parceled off. But the projects that we're working on are requesting, anywhere from 50 to 500 acres. And that's going to well go over, according to some recent sales that we've been doing in the park, we're gonna pass that threshold. So let's say you had a business that was interested, and the property went over that threshold, you'd have to take that property every time to the voters. What we're doing is we're taking the whole parcel or the whole project to the voters and getting it approved. And they did this back in the 90s. The city of Kingman voted to approve. They took about 740 acres at the time as a bulk. And that's basically what I've been working on selling off, and what has been being sold off in the last 30 years is those properties that the voters approved. So they would parcel off, and so you're not having to take back when they did it back then, it was I believe the threshold was 100,000. It has increased over the years, but also prices have increased.
Sounds like a really good way to save time.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else got any questions for Bennett?
I do have a question. It's probably restrictive to break it up into smaller pieces and push it without the voter agenda. Is that not possible, or is it just too convoluted? That's all I need to know.
I don't think you'd want to break the parcels off because we don't have the, you really don't know some of the buyers yet either. And so those properties, as they tell you what their needs are, then you would do the parcels at that time. And there's a lot of development that's going to happen with the 1800 as well. In regards to where you're going to put the roads, the rail lines, all that is going to have to take place as well.
I do understand that, but years ago they took Butler and broke it up into 25 little 5-foot by 150-foot lots, and you could sell them as much as they need. I just thought maybe we could circumvent going to the voters to do anything like that and just sell a business what they need. Okay, we can give you X amount, but I'm not a real estate agent, so.
Yeah, we were already down the road of taking it to the election. We don't foresee the voters not approving something like this. We've got all this acreage out here, that's pretty prime property for doing industrial manufacturing and, creating jobs. We feel that back in the 90s when they did it, it was done under economic development and, there wasn't really any pushback. It was approved and, we'll kind of see what happens with this one. But that train has kind of left the station and it's heading in the right direction.
I think getting approval for one lot is the way to go. Then you can proceed to do whatever you want with it. It's a real time saving. Great idea. I think that's the way to go. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you for your time. Let's move on. Okay, old business.
Nope, I'll do Sylvia.
Oh, you're gonna do Sylvia. Okay, I'm sorry.
This is Gary. I will jump in here. Sylvia is on vacation this week. And as many of you know, Sylvia is also an economic development manager for us. She specializes in retail commercial. And so I'm just going to give you a brief update. The things that Sylvia has been busy on is we recently updated our facade grant, and we added quite a bit of money to that as a result of seeing how could we assist, certainly some of the folks in town to improve the looks of their building. So that went from 20,000 that we had in there last year to 90,000 this year. And so we submitted to and was approved by council an updated facade agreement. One of the things that we were able to put into that is we also offer up to 3 hours with a professional architect. We found that some of the building owners and just didn't know what they needed to do or what would be the right improvement. And so that was put in there as part of the grant thing. We negotiated that with the local architect. So along with that, we also enhanced our parklet and pedlet program. And now this stuff is all available on the city website and also on our Kingman economic development website, Choose Kingman, okay? So in the parklet and pedlet, there is the same thing. There was the offer for the assistance of a professional architect. And we did that with a limit of up to 3 hours. And we found that to be, when we met with the architect, to be a pretty common number for the ability to help them out. And so the parklet, again, was designed in the downtown area to help a business extend their area out into the sidewalk or even into the street, depending on if they chose a parklet or the pedlet. And again, this was to certainly help them enhance their business. In the case of restaurants, offer them additional seating area to help meet the spatial requirements that we now have under the COVID-19. So those are two of the programs that Sylvia has been working on. We are also now in the final stages of putting together a program to look at how we can assist in murals. We put some money aside for murals that could be used and also, looking at an approval process and everything else to kind of just, number one, have a little bit better control, but also to be able to enhance that as a feature in the area. So the other thing that Sylvia has done a lot is we've worked lately, we've had a couple of larger retail clients, so she continues to work with them. But I think I really want to take my hat off. Both she and Bennett have really provided a good forum for cross-departmental work, because quite often we have to really work with our folks down in planning and zoning or even in engineering. And so what we've done is make sure we get all the right players in the room. So when we meet with these retail folks and they had particular needs, that we can answer their questions. And so in that way, both Sylvia and Bennett have acted as ombudsman on behalf of that client. This has already turned out to be really extremely helpful. So the other thing that Sylvia had been busy with, as many of you may or may not know, she was a key part of the census team. And so Sylvia has continued to work with the census team and work until they will close census. So She works with Annie and Colleen and a number of others in the city. So census had always fallen in the past down into the planning and zoning department. As many of you know, Sylvia joined us this last year coming out of the planning and zoning department, which has, I think, for us been very beneficial. She knows that tie and has that background on that. And so the other thing is I've encouraged her to continue her economic development training. She is about to finish up a 4-week course with the IEPDC training and stuff like that. The one disappointment for us this year certainly has been, and I know it is for Bennett, myself, and the rest of the team, is that we just simply aren't having the kind of conferences we used to. And so everything we're doing is virtual. So we're certainly trying to make the best of that, but whether it be the IDC or the shopping center conferences or whatever. And so the other thing that Sylvia works closely with is our consultant, Ricky, who helps us with the on the commercial side. We did find a consultant to say, all right, help us on the retail side. So you sort of, with a small team, you need a little bit longer arms. So that's really it kind of in a nutshell. And what I wanted to do was just take a moment to also update you on what's happening out at the airport. We've been fortunate to acquire now close to in excess of $5 million in grants. A number of items will take place at the airport over this next year on runway, repaving, and et cetera. And we also took an opportunity, Steve Johnson headed up a program where we expanded our taxiways to create additional parking. There is, as many of you know, an unfortunate thing with COVID, and that is a lot of the airlines were now seeking areas to park their excess planes that they're pulling offline. And some of these airplanes will probably be parked for an extended period of time. And then, you know, some of these companies have already received orders to now take the airplanes apart. So they're going to come out of service and probably be written off and like that. So we've added over the last month or so 50 plus airplanes to the inventory out here, and there is more on the way. So Bennett updated you on the release. That is a coordination effort with the FAA. And the one thing I will tell you is that this FAA allowing us to go to the voters early with this release is kind of a first. And so that's really good for us. And what that allows us to do is, as Gene and Bennett have said, it gives us tremendous flexibility in the future when we're dealing with that property involved in the 1,800 acres there. So I will happy to answer any additional retail questions, but again, for any of these programs, they are all on the website and they're for your perusal. So.
Any questions for Gary? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to old business. Josh is going to cover the Route 66 drive-through shield. You ready, Josh?
Yep. I'm going to share screen here. Okay, can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay, so the committee met on the 10th of June and again on the 30th of June. We went over a few different design concepts and ideas. And what we settled on are two basic variations of one design that we're going to ask for specs to be made up to put out to bid, and we'll see what we can fit in the budget. So this first one you'll see, it's the black Route 66 shield, which is something that's different than any other Route 66 shield, drive-through shield, or anything else. So it's specific to Kingman. The Route 66 is the same font as is used in Kingman Visitor Center on our sign, and the Kingman is the same as the Visitor Center text. So that would be kind of a box text that would stand out. And then we've taken the Establish Arizona 1882 out of our branding. I'm just going to move to the next one. And so you see the only difference is the cut corners there. Now, we've been told this might be out of our budget, but we're going to go ahead and ask for specs to be made up for both, and we'll put both out to bid and see what we can fit into our budget.
So the only difference is the cut corners, huh, Josh?
Correct, is the cut corners.
What was,
Josh, could you take a moment and explain to the folks, the lighting background here? So, that this is basically designed to be both a day and night facility.
Yeah, so with the Route 66, it would be the box neon, just like what we have on our visitor sign, and the Kingman would be similar to Visitor Center. It's where it's cut to the shape of the letter, and then put out so it's kind of three-dimensional out from the sign. But for that white border that goes around, what that's actually is a relief, so that the black kind of sticks out from that, and then there's lighting on the inside of a channel that follows that white outline, and it would light from inside there and kind of illuminate that area. So it gives it a little bit of a three-dimensional look, something that would be unique, and it wouldn't be overpowering at nighttime. You'd be able to see it, but it wouldn't blind you from being able to see the rest of the sign, or someone under the sign that wanted to get their picture taken. Another thing that we're looking at is because of individuals being under the sign at nighttime wanting to be able to be lit up, we're looking at having the same sort of marquee bulbs on the top of that cut through, so that it would light up whatever was underneath the shield.
would this be on both sides, Josh, or just one?
It would be both sides.
Okay. Can you explain to the commissioners that may not know where this is going to be in the powerhouse parking lot, please?
Yeah, so as you enter the powerhouse, the dirt area off to your left is where this shield would go. And we have enough space to have a turnaround for a vehicle to go kind of drive down that dirt area and then wrap around to go under the shield. We are working on an application with the railroad. And I know we're kind of, it's a bit of a process, and we're kind of going back and forth on things, but we'd like to expand that turnaround radius so that there's just a little bit more space. So we are working on trying to acquire or lease some land from the railroad to kind of make that space bigger. But it would basically just be opposite the powerhouse on the other side of the parking lot.
Okay. And we could do this even without acquiring that extra land, right?
Right.
What are the dimensions of the full height and then the vehicle, or the middle part, the cross through?
Yeah, so what we're looking at, and I don't have the full specs out, but we've asked to try to have that opening at a 10 by 10. And that would be wide enough for anything to go through, and tall enough that if something has, some antenna sticking up, it wouldn't damage the sign. But the full dimensions, I don't have all of those yet. That's just kind of what we asked for the opening to be, and then it'll be spec'd out so that everything is the correct dimensions. So this is, as a comparison, if you recall, the fun run's 8 feet tall, 10 feet wide. So this would be a little bit bigger than the one that we use for the fun run, just because of that 2 extra feet vertically.
Oh, great. I get a lot of people that are dying to get this up. They want to get their picture in there. It really looks good, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have a question.
Yes.
Is the white part of this sign luminescent, or does it have to be lit by an external source?
It's going to be, so the Route 66, you're talking about the text, Randy?
That's correct. The whole sign.
Okay.
So the white part, is it luminescent? Will it reflect when people come up, or does it have to be lit?
So we have 2 different treatments. They would be luminescent on their own. The Route 66 text would be a boxed neon. So it would be, the letters would be built in a box to the shape of the letter, and then neon would wrap around inside that. It's similar to what we have in the arch right now with Kingman now lit up in neon. And the channeled area, the white borders, it's actually a channel that's 1 layer back from the black sheets, or the black face of the sign. And there will be lights inside that channel just behind that black face that kind of shine out into the white area. So they are lit up and there's lighting in there, but it's kind of a hidden light, so that you don't see light bulbs, facing right at you. And what we're actually looking at with that is the multicolor sort of option like we have in the shields of the arch, so that at different seasons we can have that, you know, red or pink or green or whatever we want.
Well, thank you, Josh. I just needed to know if it was powered or if it was just.
Yeah, it will be powered. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Josh. This is Nikki Sueya.
Yes.
Okay. It'd be nice, I don't know exactly where in that dirt area, the alignment, so that when someone takes a picture, it also frames somehow the wallopies behind it.
So
Really nice.
the way that it would be set up is if you're standing on the side to where you're facing the powerhouse would be framed behind the sign. If you're standing on the powerhouse side so that you're looking away from the powerhouse, what's framed behind it is Route 66. So that's the nice way that this alignment is set up. Unfortunately, it won't be the wallopies, but you will see Route 66 going behind. Just, it'll almost look like the shield is placed in the actual road, because the way the road curves around right at that point.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Any other questions for Josh? Okay, thank you, Josh, for that update. Really good work. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is we got branding. I was on the committee that helped choose the company that we chose to do the branding. I was also on the committee of the approval of or to get some suggestions on what they come up with. You're going to cover that, Gary?
That'll be, Josh will start out and he'll pull some stuff up for us so that we can familiarize the committee with the end product here, which is already being widely used in the city.
So I'm gonna share again. And this is the logo and the tagline that Geo and Associates came up for us. We went through several revisions on this with different elements coming in and out. But what this shows is a sunset with the road going towards the mountains and Route 66. That word explore is interchangeable. So when we're using it for tourism, we can say explore. If we're using it for relocate, relocating to Kingman, we can say, relocate or move here, or whatever we want to change that out. That word is interchangeable as part of the design of the brand. And then Kingman, established 1882, Arizona. Now they did, when they sent this over, we had some discussions with the management team about how we wanted to utilize this with our tourism promotion, because the colors, although they work great for just kind of our community experience, we wanted something that popped a little bit more for our travelers and for promoting and branding going out on all of our collateral. So what we have is the same graphics, just a different color palette to highlight the sunset and the road and make just make it pop out a little bit more. And so that's the colorized version, and then black and white version. So for black and white print or stamps or whatever we have, and then using it in action. Let that load for a minute. So this is an ad that we're utilizing with the new colors, the new theme, explore, rugged, adventurous, and unafraid, and our logo kind of showing the different things that you can do experiencing Kingman. And this is specific to this year because outdoor recreation is what people are, for the most part, participating in. And the one event that we are still planning on having in Kingman is our rodeo. We've got hundreds of cowboys trying to sign up right now. So this is kind of the branding in action. But basically what we're doing citywide is updating the city flag. That's what we have at city council chambers. We're adding it. I think we've already pretty much added it to all the vehicles. There might still be some in the public works and parks that they've got to add on because they have such a large fleet. And then I think in the future, we're looking at adding into the buildings. Annie can probably give you more of an update on that timeline. And then encouraging the placement throughout the retail community with cards, stationery, trying to get the community to adopt the brand. But internally, we're updating right now. We're updating our our business cards, our websites. We've got the logo up on our social media. So we're trying to bring this out citywide. Any questions on that, or?
Gene was right. Chairman Kirkham was right. We went through an extensive fielding of this with our friends from Geo, and really came up with ultimately a really good design that would be very flexible. And so I certainly want to thank Josh. He played around with the additional coloring, and so that if we needed something to pop a little bit different. So and then the city manager has encouraged all departments to, over the last month, to phase into this new one. So we're not going to be throwing anything away with the old logo. We're just going to, as the stuff runs out, we'll introduce it as stuff that we have to have pre-printed. But for the most part, as many of you know, most of our stuff's electronic now, so we transfer that too. Most of our vehicles, so we have our own capability and a sign shop of doing our own decals and stuff, and so that's already begun to happen. Any of the newer vehicles that were just got into the fleet, those are already done, and now they're working at changing it out on the old ones there. So yeah, it's I think it's another exciting step forward, something to refresh a little bit. So.
Well, good deal. Okay, thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Moving on.
He stays right on. So.
And you stay right there, Josh, because you got item number C, the powerhouse. I was at the powerhouse the other day, and I saw a lot of changes, and I was very impressed with the way things are getting set up. Josh is now upstairs, Sylvia's upstairs. The gift shop and the tourism shop, it really looked good, clean. I really have to hand it to you, Josh. You did a good job on that over there. And I saw the new mural the other day. That's something. It was a good place for that. It looked good.
Thank you. So just to kind of give an update of where things are at with our visitors, June is the first month where we've been open for a full month since the closure has stopped. We have reopened back on Saturdays, so we're open 5 days a week. It has been tough hiring people on. We've been trying to work with HR and posting and with the WEX program. We've done some interviews. We've had some success with it, but it is tough getting enough people to open up full 7 days. And at this point, really, though, we're not too concerned about opening up for the full 7 days. We are looking and watching our costs. So, for instance, in the month of June, we, although we were only open about 54% as much of the time, we only had, as we were last June, we only had about 14% of traffic. So we had about 148 visitors on average for each day, and that compares to 735 visitors per day on average June 2019. So we have a lot less traffic, but we are, we are trying to open in the ways we can and do what we can to serve our travelers. In the gift shop, we've made a sale for about 1 of every 8 people. This is compared to 1 of every 16 people last year. So last year we had a lot of motor coaches coming through. And as you know, motor coaches, for the most part, they're looking to use the restroom. They're not all coming in to shop and to experience what we have. So the average transaction value was also up. So it was about $22.50 compared to nearly $18 last year. It's about a 25% increase. So we're seeing a better match to our visitor for what's coming in. I'm sure community-wide, we're also seeing that because people are coming more to experience what Kingman has, to see the museums, as opposed to just traveling through. We're carrying some new t-shirts provided by a local print shop for vision screen printing. And we're trying to discount and liquidate some of the product that doesn't fit our new market. So we've got a lot of product out there that we brought in to match our international or Chinese market, the visitors coming in. And a lot of that isn't stuff that the domestic market is picking up as quickly. So we are trying to discount and liquidate some of that out so that we can bring new product in and increase our margin in sales. We're also researching our online merchant options. So we're working with our web developer on what options we have. We have communications going on with our credit card handling company. So we've got to stick with the same one that we're utilizing through our sales here in the gift shop. It's the one that finance has set up for us. And so we're working on that. Some building improvements. As Gene had said, we have the new mural on the side of the building. So because this is a historic building, we can't put anything on the building itself. This is actually on a stairwell that's just off of the building on the north side, and it looks great. It's a great spot for people to stop and get a picture of themselves. It says, "Wish you were here." It's in the old vintage postcard design, and it was painted by local artist J.C. Amberlin. And then we also have the Powerhouse parking lot on the south side repaved. We'll be adding striping for both cars and buses as we get a chance to do that this fall. Any questions?
Okay, very good. Thank
Josh,
you.
maybe one thing, Gene, just real quick. Because of COVID-19, Josh adheres to a pretty strict, we keep that place exceptionally clean. The handrails are wiped down just about hourly, all the touch surfaces. And so we've really tried to make it, and our customers feel safe. We require the mask when you enter. We've only had a couple of incidents where, they said they couldn't, but they would end up going out. We also offer them free masks. We'll come to the door and provide that for them. So we'll make it as convenient as possible. But we've really, like we have in many of the city facilities, taken all those extra steps to ensure them, the restrooms they were always very clean, but now that spotless and all the other touch surfaces are wiped down all the time. And we provide the hand sanitizer and everything. So we make sure that both the staff and the visitor feel as comfortable as we possibly can. So. Okay, very good. All right, moving on.
One quick question. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sure.
We've had such a decline. Is it a pretty solid domestic traveler base then at this point, or are we still getting some of the internationals coming through?
We get some internationals. Before it was close to 40%, 35, 40%. It's probably closer to 10% now. So there is still some international travel, but by far and large, it's domestic, and it's mostly in our region. It's in the Western region.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's no further questions. We'll move on to new business. Bicycle taxis. Mary, are you online?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So we did purchase 2 bicycle taxis. We had some grant money that would be running out June 30th, so use it or lose it. So we moved forward and bought 2 bicycle taxis. They're black. They were the ones that the vendor had in stock. They do have a canopy, so if it is warm or in the rare occasions that it's raining, the passengers could be somewhat protected. If you can't visualize it, it's a rickshaw, but it's drawn by a bicycle. So it has space for 2 passengers. It is somewhat difficult. We had some of our green team and some of the supervisors pedaling it around. They're somewhat, it's going to be a conditioning experience for the drivers, let's put it that way. So to operate them, we don't have the functionality, I guess you'd say, to collect fares and use the fares to purchase liability insurance and do the ongoing maintenance. I thought if we operated them maybe Thursday from 4 to 9, Thursday evenings, Friday evenings 4 to 9, and maybe Saturday 2 to 9 p.m., something like that. And I calculated if on an average fare of like $7, they would make about $7 or about $4,000 annually, each one. So they should more than pay. The liability insurance would be about $50 per month for each one. And then maintenance, it's probably not going to need anything for a couple years, maybe tire repair. So the possibility exists for them to be money makers. It's just that we don't have the functionality to do that. So we've approached a couple organizations, the Kingman Chamber of Commerce, the Main Street Association or the Main Street Program, and the Kingman Merchants. And we're still working through like how can we make this work. The liability is a little bit problematic because it's difficult for an organization that doesn't own the bicycle taxis to then purchase the liability. So we're working through those issues. What we may do is enter into an MOU that to overcome that liability ownership issue. The other option we have is if we found some persons who were entrepreneur minded, who were eligible for the WIOA program, it could be like a path for them to own their own little business of operating a bicycle taxi downtown. So that's where we stand on those.
Okay, when you're saying the liability insurance, is that to cover the city or is that to cover yourself?
It would be to cover I guess ourselves or whatever by MOU, whatever organizations were involved in operating the bicycle taxi. And it would just be in the event that someone fell out of it, if they were in the road and they caused an accident. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of hypothetical situations where that someone might get sued.
I see. I know when I close the street, Beale Street down there, I have to get a tulip insurance, and I was wondering if maybe you should talk to Jackie to see if maybe there isn't some way you can buy, because I know the tulip insurance for me is not that expensive for the event. You're only going to be running a couple of days a week. You know, the city probably would be worried about somebody falling down in there too, because they could ultimately come back to the city because you're on a public street. I was wondering if maybe you should talk to Jackie.
Jackie's not with us anymore.
Oh, Jackie's not with you?
Jackie retired.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, it's
whoever.
okay, but Susan in our risk man.
Yeah, talk to Susan. I didn't know Jackie retired, but they're very helpful down there. Every time I close the street or has a Halloween bash or that, we buy a tulip insurance, and it's relatively inexpensive. For what you're doing, I think I'd check with them.
Thanks.
Okay. I've seen this in several different cities, and you know, for a downtown like that, to get from one end to the other, or maybe to the powerhouse or something, I don't know what your route is, but that's kind of neat. Person can park their car in one place and see the whole downtown.
Yeah.
Taxi. I don't know how it's going to work, but it looks like something that I'd like to do. Ride it, not pedal.
I think it could evolve into not just like a taxi where someone's needing a ride somewhere, but tours, you know, bicycle taxi tours where you have someone that works with them in that capacity. I think that'd be a lot more interesting and more of a value to somebody who's going to the powerhouse intentionally, not just to use the restroom, which sounds like we're having a lot, you know, better type of visitor that's going there, that's actually interested in stopping and purchasing something. They might be interested in taking a tour of Beale Street to the street up one where the Benelli house is, so that they could take a tour, and maybe a guided tour, so the people that are actually biking the bike go through a little almost a training on kind of the area, and they have points of interest they stop at, and they start talking about those topics. So I think that would be, like she said, I think finding that entrepreneurial type person that's wanting to take it a little bit further than just a bicycle service, because as somebody that has a store downtown, the traffic is unbelievably slow, and the only people that seem to be coming down are a lot of locals going to eat and they're driving their car, or there are domestic tourists that are stopping down here. So you got to really find more than just I need a ride from A to B. It needs to be more of like an entertainment in a sense.
Ah, maybe get married. That's a great idea. You might consider something like that.
Yeah, we have been thinking about something like that. So thanks. Well, one thing that we thought is get some things pre-recorded so that if we had the wets where they'd be more rotating through, it wouldn't be, they wouldn't have to memorize, but there would be some pre-recorded information about local downtown. But yeah, I agree. I think it's a great idea that maybe one operates more as a taxi and the other one operates as a tour, because you can charge a much higher fare for a tour type of thing. So yeah, we would have to chart out a route and get the points of interest.
Well, maybe in the future, Mary, I can schedule another thing on the agenda. Maybe you can give us an update in maybe 4 or 5 months or something like that. I'd be interested to see how far you get with this.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Get a hold of Lisa whenever you want to give us an update, and she can get it on the agenda for you. Any other questions for Mary?
This is Nikisi Wea. Not a question, just a comment that maybe somehow a QR code that's there that they could scan with their phone, and that would take them to a page where they could pay and use that as the method of collection.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, the issue would be to track, we don't have the fiscal capability to track all those small amounts of coming in and then paying out. It's just under our grant structure, we're just really limited to what we can do with funds. And it's just not something that we have the personnel to be able to handle. So if we go the entrepreneurship route, we could buy those little squares that attach to people's phone or however, so that they could, the driver could collect the fares and then keep any tips. But that would have to be covered in that MOU if we decide to move forward with either Main Street or the downtown merchants.
Well, it seems like you got a good start, Mary. Continue working on it. We appreciate it. And like I said, check with the city on that tulip insurance. So that's the way I go. And then give us an update maybe in 4 months or something like that. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I guess this is Josh again. Monument signs with the new logo. Oh, you gonna do it, Gary? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take this one from Josh here. So I could see him flinching there. So he's got plenty on the agenda today. The city manager has charged our group with coming up with looking at monuments for the city. As you see, if you go into many rural communities, you see a monument that's just off the highway that says "Welcome to Kingman" and that sort of thing. So what we did was this is actually, when I say it's in its infancy, we just started looking at this a few weeks ago. And so last week, a group of us went out with ADOT officials and actually looked at all the 3 interchanges and where the best location would be for a monument sign. And so now what we're doing is we're waiting on ADOT. There are some specifications for things that you put in any of the ADOT, Arizona Department of Transportation right-of-ways. So we're making sure that that would be incorporated into the design of this. And so initial planning is how could we incorporate our new logo, whether we used a rusted metal effect against some stonework or whatever. So those are right now just in the very beginning. And so we would probably just again bring the committee back together like we did before, even on the drive-through, and take a look at and kick those ideas around. But we have a designer working on some ideas right now, and so that's kind of where we are. The ADOT specs present some challenges. Well, we don't know if this is required to have the breakaway posts underneath it or inside of it or whatever. So again, this is something we have talked about with a cutout metal that would be allowed to rust and backlit with LEDs and things like that. So I just wanted to really just update the committee that yes, we are moving forward with this, and we have the wholehearted support and encouragement of the city manager. This is something that's probably long overdue. And so again, right now, the initial meeting went well with ADOT. Now we're just going to wait on the particulars of how do we proceed from here to do it the right way. So certainly open to any questions, and we'll share the ideas with you as they come forward.
Any questions? If there's no questions, we'll move on to item number C. Billboards. Josh, can you update us on what you're doing with the billboards?
Yes. Let me go ahead and share screen again. So this is the billboard that we currently have. We have two billboards of this design. One is on Highway 93 coming into Kingman from Golden Valley for those travelers coming in from Nevada. And one is on Interstate 40 coming into Kingman around Meconico. So it's for those travelers coming from California. And then a third one, let my computer catch up with me. Oops. Is this one. This is on Interstate 40 coming in from the east side of Kingman. And it's a shared message that we have with the Chamber of Commerce. So these billboards are owned by the city. They were paid for with bed tax dollars. They're managed by the Chamber of Commerce on our behalf. And we have full rights to utilize the face of the billboards for visitors coming into Kingman. And so we did include in the budget this year to change the skins. These were put up in 2016. They are getting a little faded, and we would like to incorporate our new branding. Just as a side, this is not what we plan on putting on the billboard, but I did want to update you with another example of our current branding. This is a billboard on the east side of Seligman along Route 66 that encouraged travelers to continue down Route 66 and land in Kingman. But we are looking for some concepts and ideas to incorporate branding in the new sign. Now, we did form a marketing think tank, and our commissioner, Mr. LeSueur, is on that think tank, and he gave us some good ideas with the billboard to include some images and large text that would make it easy for travelers to see what there was in Kingman. And basically, we're just trying to come up with a concept that would get people to come off of the road and actually, exit Interstate 40 or travel through Kingman on 93 instead of just getting on Interstate 40 as soon as they come into town there off Beale Street. So any comments, suggestions, ideas? So like I said, we do have in the budget this year to change out all three skins. And, we're, as soon as we send in the artwork and get it going, they'll be changed out in a couple weeks.
Okay, great.
One of the things that we had talked about on our email chain in that little subcommittee for it was, and it's a hard thing. Billboards are a really hard thing in advertising, like when you study the purpose of them. And the one thing that that I conveyed in our email chain was the understanding that a lot of these people who are the ones that we're trying to target, which are the ones that don't have intent at stopping in Kingman, or their intent is really minimal to just gassing up and getting something quick to eat and then continuing on their trip. We're trying to get people to have a reason to pull off the exit and actually come to Kingman. And so when you're doing anything in branding and with marketing and advertising, you have to remember, if your brand is not like a Cracker Barrel, McDonald's, if it's not a national brand, if it doesn't have any brand recognition behind it itself, then the message has to be the most important. So when we were looking at the examples of what we have here in front of us, the Seligman one or the previous ones, sometimes the message ends up being too much of the actual branding, like the word Kingman, the city name, the explore part. And then the imagery is supposed to be the second part of the message. So you're using the image as the actual message. The problem is that it can get a little bit undefined. For example, when you're looking at the one on the screen, you see people in a car driving and you see the Route 66. So you really only have those kind of two identifiers. So your message, I guess, is drive on Route 66. So my recommendation, when I sent kind of my just quick example, was to talk more about the award-winning experiences of Kingman. So the one that I kind of sent back as just a way to kind of think about it was, award-winning breweries, distilleries, restaurants, biking trails, hiking trails, things like that would actually potentially, speak to someone's actual interest and be enough of a reason for them to stop their trip, halt their trip, take an exit that they weren't expecting to go, or do more than gas up and eat. So it's something that, as the little subcommittee and for our commissioners to think about when we think of how does the world see us on the outside when they're driving through the area and they're getting closer and closer to Kingman and the exits that we want them to take. We have to always think of what would be the reason why you would pull off the interstate. Is it because they have award-winning wineries and you were on your way to Sedona? Oh yeah, here's the one that I just threw this together really quickly. So it's not my normal quality work. But again, it was just conveying the branding with just, why would you want to get off the road? Are these people heading to Sedona for a winery trip and they're like, oh, there's wineries in Kingman, let's stop here and just check out a couple of them. Are they activity enthusiasts and they're getting out of California and they're heading to go take some biking trails or hiking trails or go see the Grand Canyon? I don't know. We need to find those exact reasons, though. This was an example of a billboard that I designed that's on your way towards Prescott Ash Fork. Again, the message of barbecue was the number one. The brand Lulu's Barbecue, beer and barbecue, if you don't know what it is, then it shouldn't be the biggest message. This was just extremely clear and simple.
Right.
And it tells you what exit. So that's just one of the things that when you're trying to convey any type of advertising, you always have to remember, the intent, the context, the people that are going to see it, and certainly with billboards, with people traveling at high speeds, and they're already en route somewhere, and that's so the intent is they're just driving, and so what you're trying to do is break their intent with a easy enough message to encourage them to take that exit. So that was kind of my thought process on the designs that we're looking at. So.
And I like that because, the barbecue, it's just this big message you're going to see. You only have a couple seconds to look. And the Kingman ones aren't. So the Seligman one, it's not on Interstate 40. It's on Route 66. It's to a niche market. It's the people that are driving Route 66 we're encouraging to have that Route 66 experience end up in Kingman. But these Kingman ones, we've got to find some reason because it's not our market. These are people passing through. How do we get them to decide, oh, I want to get off the interstate and go experience that or do that thing? So that's what we're trying to do is how do we identify and show that simple message that is conveyed with, quick glance, and yet it entices people to come off and get off the interstate.
Yeah, and that's why I use that word award-winning, because we do have award-winning breweries. We have award-winning pizza place. He won Rickety Cricket. They won the international pizza contest for non-traditional pizza. We have award-winning distilleries. We have worldwide recognized biking and hiking trails. So we do have a lot to talk about, and just by adding that little bit makes it seem even more important and a reason why you'd want to take an exit is because it's an award-winning experience, not just diners and and gas stations and things like that. So
I would have to concur with Steve on that. You get 4 different things that you can actually do in Kingman. Like you said, people are running down the highway. They don't have time. They see like bam, bam, bam. I like this. I like the first one that you put up. I think it's very effective. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I like that also too, Steve. And I think of in touring the United States, Merrimack Caverns, and encouraging you to have an experience with a cave, and you're not aware of that being there. It's underground. Or Amarillo, Texas, eat your giant 72-ounce steak. It's encouraging that competitive nature. Can I do it? It's free if I eat a 72-ounce steak in under an hour. Those kind of things. And they marketed themselves just, around that competition. And that's, the big billboards you see going through Amarillo. So something to encourage you. And even though that's just eating. And what I always thought was funny is thinking of Kingman as a very spiritual place because we have breweries, distilleries, and wineries.
Looks like you guys got some work still to do, but the ideas are there, and I really think that, once you get it all hammered out, it'll be a good for us. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Let's move on. Committee for Annexation of Land at the Industrial Park. I don't think you're looking right now for a committee, are you, Gary?
No. I just wanted to take an opportunity to update you. So what we've done is that our city manager again approached our group to form a committee, not our group particularly, but within the city, and this is an internal committee, to look at what the possibility is, if it is possible, for the annexation of the new 1,800 acres that would be coming in on the land release for the airport for the new piece of the industrial park. So we've met twice, and all we're doing now is really putting together all the pieces, because one of the things that whenever, as you all know, whenever you annex, is it, what are the revenue sources, what's going to pay for the services and all that. So we're looking at all those internal steps right now to say, is this feasible to move forward? It's always a sore spot, but had the community had a property tax, annexation would not be questionable. I mean, you could say, fine, you boom, and you annex it and you apply the property tax, but we don't have that. And so this is just really, really in its first stages. So the committee is formed internally. There's somebody from finance, economic development, engineering, public works, both fire and police, and planning and zoning, and the city manager. And so I just wanted to really just update you that we're looking at it, and this really right now is only focused on that new 1,800 acre release. So.
And the reason for that is that 1,800 acres is in the county area, right?
Right. So this would be, what's the right thing to do looking forward? So that's it. So,
any questions on that? I know annexation is a long drawn out process. All right, if we have no further discussion or questions, we'll go to the next one. This is Steve Lasser. Steve, can you wanted a tour company evaluation? Can you please elaborate on what you're looking at?
Yeah, let me actually get out of the agenda and see if I can find when I added all.
I got the questions up here, Steve.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah. So without me going down and reading them all out, because Josh is going to be responding to them, but it was basically just looking at tourism as you would look as a marketing company, and how do you keep your relationships with the clients over the time, and how do you automate as many sequences as you can, segmenting the different tour operators or types of tourism. How is our relationship? How have we been communicating with them before this all, the COVID crisis, to what is our plan going forward? And it's basically just a lot of, typical things for me as I onboard a client and I'm either managing their website or managing their social media or managing a part of their business. I always have to have kind of your onboarding process, the way that I track the communication with that particular client in a way that's not just buried in email strings, which is kind of your typical small business operators. They have a contact list, and then they have email strings. And do we have cloud-based storage and file management through a CRM? These are all just like kind of your typical questions, which I know that with cities, sometimes, with tourism, and I remember hearing, I think in our last meeting, that you guys were working on, I think talking to, I don't know if it was Salesforce or somebody, in possibly having one of these CRM systems, because these are really, really good to have, certainly as we're ready to start rebooting tourism, and how do we do that? So there were just some pretty basic questions, I think. So.
So I'm glad you brought all of these up. This is a really good discussion to have, and there's some input that I'd like to get from you guys. Let me just kind of touch on each one of these, and feel free to, Steve or any of the other commissioners, kind of chime in, ask questions. So the first one, what CRM system we're using currently? So you're right, we are not using one right now. We did put in our budget to get a CRM, but amid all the COVID adjustments, it was one of the things we had to cut. We had to cut 33% of our supplies and services. So We really are reliant on the ability to share a CRM with other departments, which is something that we've been looking at for the last about 3 months, trying to figure out what would be the best use, because not only for tourism, for planning and zoning, for Sylvia when she's trying to go out and pull up information on lots and businesses, if she can see that communication when they've put in permits to expand, all of that, it'd be helpful for her, it'd be helpful for Bennett. So because they're already kind of compiling this information in multiple different departments, whether it's engineering, planning, zoning, public works, we'd like something that we can tie in. Currently, the route that we're kind of looking at is a system that the city utilizes, the IT setup, track it. It has a CRM function. We're having IT look into that because I don't think currently we have purchased that module, but it's something that we would like to take a look at, maybe activating on that. And that way it's already set up with our current database. Any questions on that so far? Or?
Yeah, that particular system, does it have API access to like other services, or is it very proprietary to the system or to the city? I mean, like, so for example, let's say you're using a CRM that does allow for multiple connections to other APIs, like a newsletter campaign service. So it's all integrated in. So whenever it sends out the newsletter, it's notating it in the CRM system that that particular segment of your customer base is getting that particular newsletter on this specific date. And then it's, you know what I mean? It's ways to integrate other modules into a CRM, which is really important, because then you can be doing lots of different functions and a lot of automation sequences that you're not manually having to do yourself, that the system is set to do by itself.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt it. That's why we were looking at the Salesforce option, because you can set it up to work with multiple different, one database, but multiple different platforms under their third-party developers. And that's really the one that we wanted to look at. The pricing is a little bit, beyond our capability right now. It was several thousand just to have the Salesforce database to use with the people that we wanted to have access to it. Then the individual platforms that would operate the Salesforce, database and all of that. For each one, it would be an additional investment. Now, luckily, those are one-time investments, but you really want to make sure that you have the right one. So I think what we're looking at is if we can get a CRM kind of put up, then we're going to have an idea of what all the components are that we want to utilize it for. Right now, since we haven't used one, you're right, we're using Excel. I don't rely on email because our emails disappear after every 6 months. We have they go away. It all has to do with record keeping and everything. So I don't utilize email for it. We've got Excel. We've got different folders. When I go to trade shows and I talk to people, I've got those conversations noted, and that's pretty much where the extent of it has been. But we'd like to note, when we've worked with a press or with a film producer, and we've referenced or we've recommended different properties or restaurants or whatever, we want to be able to notate that, so we kind of have that history of the different projects we've worked on with everybody. So it's not just for our tour companies, but we want to utilize it for a lot of different areas the way we operate. What are the onboarding processes for a new inquiry? So since the title here is dealing with tour companies, I'll address that. We really work on a case-by-case basis. So most of the questions are either they want to visit the museum, and we have a strong relationship with the Historical Society, which operates the museum to accommodate tourists with special tour times, guided tours, making sure everyone's on the same page with when they're coming through so that we're all adequately staffed for those situations. Or they are requests for contacts or introductions with accommodations, dining, museums that can accommodate tours, that have motor coach parking, that can accommodate large groups, that have specialized menus. That's pretty much what the questions that come in. So I don't have an onboarding because I don't have a CRM, but we case by case work with each individual inquiry and try to make sure that both that entity and if the business, if it looks like we're having business come in some way, that they're aware that that inquiry is coming down the pike. What are the follow-up processes? Like I said, none at this time. How are we onboarding marketing tour operators? So we have participated in several tour group trade shows: Go West Summit, National Tour Association Travel Exchange, American Bus Association Marketplace, International Powwow. In fact, we booked to have a table at the 2020 Powwow in April, and you know, as you know, that event, like many others, has been canceled. But we're holding on to that reservation because they're holding all of those plans for hosting it in 2021. So we plan on having a table there. These take a lot of research and time, you know, seeing what the tour operators have on our websites, downloading their itineraries, trying to figure out who's coming through this area, who might come through this area, who might have tours that we can, you know, entice them to incorporate Kingman into, or look at a new tour because we have, you know, things that match up with the sort of itineraries they build. And then of course you have to request your appointments at the shows, and then follow up. And for most tourism offices, they have someone who does this. So they might attend 4 or 5 shows a year. So they just have an ongoing system and database and list of contacts, and it's just keeping up with those contacts. We would go to 1 a year. And so next year, you pretty much have to start that whole process all over again, do the research, figure out what's changed. Part of our strategic plan is to create the new position in fiscal year 2022. That's going to depend on budgets and what things looked at. But we really need somebody that can attend trade shows, attract tour groups, and really be that, you know, the person that's guiding that process in the office. What are we doing to go above and beyond to accommodate tour operator needs? So we do have reduced museum rates. Oh, is there a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and that one was pretty general because I know you guys go above and beyond, just, you know, just in the general sense that you do whatever you can do to accommodate them. I think it was more in line to like the questions where an example would be when you're having operators reach out to you, do we have like a certain set of things that we reply back to them on? No matter what their tour is, they automatically get maybe like a 1 page to Kingman. Here's our list of restaurants. Here's the parking areas. Here's the local amenity like bathrooms. Here's different museum locations. Here's the hours of operation. Is there like a general thing that we do so they immediately know we have the amenities to meet their needs? Or is it, like you said, done on a every single time individual basis where we just answer questions?
So it's a little of both, right? We've got a contact sheet that we have for one for lodging, one for dining, and one for accommodations, attractions, that lists, it only has those facilities that can accommodate tours. And it has who the contact is, who the alternate contact is, what their space is. For like the Dan Bar, for instance, you've got 3 rooms. So it lists, you know, facility and then 3 rooms, and this room can do this much, this room can do this much, this room can do this much. So we've got a sheet that we send out, but generally when the request comes in, we'll send them that sheet. But we also say, here's kind of what we recommend based on, you know, your itinerary, your group, or what you're asking, but here's the full list so they can identify for themselves what all the options are. But yeah, as far as accommodating them in here, and I know these are just kind of sample questions, but we do have special discounts for the tour operators. We do provide complimentary beverages to the drivers and guides to assist them while they're here. We try to set up some space that they can go back into while their group is touring, and they can make phone calls. They can, you know, line things up. A big question is, especially during monsoon seasons and during the winter time, is what the weather's looking like if they're heading east on Interstate 40 especially. So those are ways that we accommodate them. Most identified amenity requests from tour operators. By far, number 1 is restrooms. The people coming in, half of them, that's all they do when they're on a tour group, because they're sitting in the bus for a long time and here's a chance to use the restroom. Especially with international travelers, the Route 66 passports, those have always been free in the past. They aren't anymore, but there's still a nominal fee. We'll see what happens when tour groups come in, because that latest edition was just launched last month. We've provided basic coffee In the past, it's kind of cumbersome. Actually, we've had tour groups stop coming, excuse me, stop coming in because as people were trying to line up and get coffee, and the coffee machine could only go so fast, it was setting them behind. And then, of course, like I said, weather. About half of the groups during winter months or during monsoons, they inquire about what they're going to be heading into as they go down the road. But as far as like in the next question, hiking, biking, walking history, we receive zero inquiries about hiking or biking or walking. Those are things that we get from individual travelers, the people that are able to adjust their tour. I don't even have tour operators ask about those opportunities, because for the most part, they're trying to, schedule in their tour. They want to know where they could stop to have people eat, what the attractions are they can see, maybe gift shops that they can go and they can shop at. But for the most part, it's a very scheduled in thing. When the tour groups ask for restrooms, sometimes they contact us in advance. Sometimes it's just they show up. For a large part, probably 3/4 of the tours, we don't even know they're coming in. So one thing that we've been doing is collecting. We've been writing down all of the tours that stop in, so we know what charter companies are coming through, and that's pretty much as far as it's gone for the last 3 years. We've just been kind of marking down who's coming in, because a lot of the time that coming in, you can read it off the side of the coach, and that's about all the time that you have, because they're on a pretty tight schedule. We used to run whole surveys and ask them, where'd you start from and where'd you end, and we got less and less of that. So now that we're during the shutdown, we've been going through that, and we've compiled a list of 237 tour companies, and we're notating what itineraries they're doing, what sort of trips they're doing, what sort of themes, what their demographics are, so that we can go back and we can do exactly like you said, try and figure out how to communicate to each one of them based on what their needs are. And we're also noting, who's closed their doors. There's some we just can't get a hold of. There's a couple that we know they've closed their doors permanently. The rest we kind of assume are temporary, but we just don't know at this time. Let's see here. What's your next question? Each of the segments, tour operators set up for specific marketing segments. So like I said, that's something that we'll be looking at as we're building that list. And that's something that's taken quite a bit of time, because we're not able to reach them. A lot of them are not answering the phones, or not answering emails. So we're having to go in, download itineraries. A lot of it doesn't have the details on the website. You've got to download, look at the PDF, and then kind of scour through it. So we're going through that. It's a bit of a process, but we think it'll be valuable in the end, because these are the tours that have been coming to Kingman specifically, which helps narrow it down. Have we considered specific collateral based on tour interest that can be mailed, emailed, socially posted? So when I've attended trade shows, many of them do not want a printed collateral. They want me to email them those contact sheets that I was talking about, the thing that has the list out of who the contacts are, who can accommodate, how many they can accommodate. That's pretty much what we've utilized, and it includes everybody in Kingman that can accommodate groups, because we're a small community. We only have so many anyways. Have we considered a web page on gokingman.com specific to tour operators, showing local amenities, parking, restrooms, food and drink that caters to them? So one thing I also want to hit on is, as we've put a lot of our time into Andy Divine Days Festival, this is one of the areas where we've really kind of dropped our efforts, because instead we're putting the efforts on to putting on an event. There's only so much staff time that can go into doing different things, and then an event like that takes a lot of hours and a lot of focus. So this is an area where we're really hoping that we can pull someone in and take over and actually manage this program. But right now, we just don't think it's quite the right time. Like I said, people are not answering their phones. There's very limited tours going on. We've been watching the communications with the tour operators, and for an example, one of the things that through the communication feeds that I've been watching with National Travel association is one tour operator says, well, consider this scenario. A tour member develops symptoms during the course of the tour and self-reports at the tour director. It's clear this person cannot continue the tour. So, okay, if medical care is obtained, as it should be, and with or without positive test, the person is hospitalized, required to self-isolate for 14 days, then depending on that local jurisdiction, contact tracing may be required for the entire group, including the tour driver, the tour operator, or the tour director. They'd have to quarantine for 14 days. So you need a policy for handling this. Or in another scenario, is a tour member who develops mild symptoms. The tour member doesn't feel particularly ill, so they're unwilling to seek medical treatment. Does the tour director have the ability or the authority to tell that person that they have to quarantine, that they and then if they have to justify having the customer leave the tour, what's the likely probability that the person involved will be even able to acquire transportation to get home? So then they have to look at, are they putting this person up with accommodations? So there's so many things that they're looking at, that it's really early on for group tours. I think we're going to be looking at another year before we really have tours coming back in. And the good part about that is it gives us plenty of time to kind of build our message, figure out who's coming through, and then put us in a good position to start putting that message out immediately once things come back online.
Yeah, and I had prepared this list, I think it was a couple months ago. So it was still so uncertain where we were at in the whole world when it came to tourism and stuff like that. So I understand a lot of this stuff is probably way forecasted out, but it's definitely something to consider as we're looking at, things as tour operators are starting to look at their 2022 calendars. It might be good to have just, a little button up in the corner of gokingman.com that says, tour companies, and they click it and they get all of our current amenities and parking and all the contact pages that you said, so that they can start pre-planning their trips, even if it's a couple years out. They do still want to know these things. So
the reason I'm really glad that you brought this up is because I would like to pick your brain a little bit, and it doesn't have to be in this meeting, but about what elements you think we should be looking at in the CRM and how we can utilize that, because that's something that we don't really have an experience in, but we know it's really crucial to having that history of the discussion with the customer, so that when we pull something up, we know where we've been, we know where they've been.
Yeah, it's a really, really great function. They call it like, the pipeline, in a sense, where if let's say it was an inquiry and they never showed up, that's a stage of their journey. And that stage is probably 5 other operators that maybe inquired, but they never got back to you. That puts those 5 operators into the same sequence, so that in 3 months, you send out one message specific to those who haven't visited Kingman yet, and they all receive that. And then you can and then just email chains. A lot of the CRMs now, when you're communicating with an operator, you're CCing the CRM system. So your entire conversation is tracked inside and internally in that, including other people in your office that have access to your CRM at that level. They can read communications that were happening in that customer's profile, without being inside your email, just direct communication between it. But yeah, it's definitely something we can meet up and go into more depth about. And one question I forgot to ask earlier, which is kind of related in a way, is you had mentioned the e-commerce capability of the Go Kingman site. And it sounds like it's kind of predicated based on your guys' payment platform, maybe being not as friendly to link into a website. But what's the timeline, or is there a projected timeline yet on getting products onto the actual Go Kingman site?
So with our website, we've also budgeted to do a revamp. So we're going through right now to figure what pages go on. The company that hosts our website, they host tourism websites. That's what they do. It's Go Travel Sites. They're redoing the code to simplify things, because as they've been making changes, the nice thing is it's like having a Squarespace website. We upgrade along with everybody else. So that's a really nice feature, but there's a lot of things that are still kind of antiquated. So we're really looking forward to having ours relaunch with the rest of those sites. And online merchandising is one of the components that they're going to be adding in. So it's not about the option just wasn't there through this website. We could have embedded an iframe to have a sales component, but the other thing we have to look at is we've got to have a credit card processing system that is with our current provider, because that's the provider that we have that won the bid from the city. That's supposed to go back out to bid in February or March. I'm really hoping to have this online before then. We can just migrate whatever the new component is. But I'd hate to give you a timeline right now, but I'd say this fall is what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Josh, this,
Yes.
I just had a thought when you had about that you run into the backlog of providing the coffee. If maybe there's some kind of a hotline that, that you could provide that's like call ahead for coffee, we'll keep you awake and alert and whatever. And then that gives you enough advance notice to start throwing a lot of pots, having worked in the hospitality industry myself, that some big tour bus is coming and suddenly, is it going to be decaf or is it seniors who are living on their caffeine to keep them awake and, alert and moving, how many pots to brew and so on, so that you're prepared and it doesn't, and it's in flow with their timeline.
Well, and so three things to that. One is we don't have the plumbing and all of that set up, so we're dealing with water tanks and all of that. So if it's something that we really wanted to look at investing in, we'd need to redesign the areas of the gift shop down there so that we can get water in. We can have, a way to dispose of, the part of the water that's not coming out. We have no sewer into that area. The second thing is right now we've pulled all coffee because with COVID, we don't really have a way of, cleaning to the way that we'd want to. The third thing is, now that we have motor coach parking downtown, part of what we really want to do is focus any tours that are interested in coffee to the downtown area where they can buy it from, our providers that are out on Beale Street. We really want to be more of the informational resource instead of being kind of the one-stop shop.
Okay, we all set? Any other questions for Josh at this time? I want to thank you, Steve, for taking the bull by the horns there, guy. That's good commission work right there. You guys continue communicating, and I'm sure we'll come up with some really good results. Okay, moving on. This is an item I had put on the Route 66 Festival. Mr. Hinckley and I, for many, many years, have been kicking around this, and I guess it kind of got away from us. And then Josh, a few months ago, contacted me with an idea, and it just wasn't going to work. But I think in 2021, Mr. Hinckley can probably elaborate a little bit more on what he's got in mind. But we don't have a Route 66 festival anymore. We had a couple of tries a few years ago, and it didn't work very well. I think one of the problems is the person that was running it didn't have an idea of how to run the car show into it, and it really was a cluster, if you want to say that. But I think in the future, if you're going to be thinking about that, you need to get a hold of some car people, and they can take care of the car show end of it totally, and it can run almost flawlessly. And then the festival part at the same time. What I'm probably looking at is Mr. Hinckley on board.
He was having internet problems.
I don't see him online any longer, Chairman.
Okay, well, basically, him and I and quite a few of the rest of us would like to see a Route 66 festival. They got one on almost every town and city across the United States that are on 66, and we are in the middle of the biggest run of 66, right in the middle, and I think it would behoove us not to at least get some direction from staff and maybe the city council on trying to put one together for 2021 sometime. I think it'd be like the countdown to the anniversary, something like that, one day or maybe a 2-day event, maybe even made it up with the End of Divine Days Festival. I don't know, something like that. So we could put our name on a Route 66 festival instead of just trying to live off 66, if you know what I mean. What do you think, Josh?
Let me share again some stuff going on here.
Okay.
You're right. This year just is out.
Didn't happen.
This is, so I want to share a few things. This is our occupancy, and I've scrubbed some information. I can't show you all the information because of our ability to redistribute the information, but I can basically show you the percent changes and show you how things are this year compared to last year. So that red line shows the performance this year compared to last year. Last year would just be that 0 line. So you can see January, February, we're performing pretty well compared to last year. It was single digits, but it was over what we were doing before. Then in March, and you know that's really, that dip is just the second half of March, because first half of March, things were riding along well. And then by April, we've got a 38.5% decrease in occupancy. Not only that, but we also had a huge decrease in room sales, or in room price. So our overall revenue was more than half down compared to last year. Now, May and June, we're seeing that pick up, and that has nothing to do with people hitting the road and wanting to travel again. That has to do with the Parks Department got wise and realized that a lot of teams and tournaments that would be playing in Nevada and California could not play. And so they started hosting tournaments here in Kingman. We had them booked up about every weekend, adult tournaments and girls softball tournaments throughout the months of May and June. Now, by the time July came around, I don't have July's numbers, obviously, because we're still in it, but those tournaments dried up. Tentatively, we will see them coming in August and in September, probably September. I don't see it happening in August. The nice thing about those during this time is they've taken out the bleachers. So all the families that are watching their kids and their husbands or wives play, they're in lawn chairs spread around the diamonds. So it's a perfect social or physical distancing opportunity, and yet it still fills our hotels, brings people into the restaurants. So that's why you see that starting to pick up. June, in fact, we're darn near back to where we were in June of 2019, even though we don't have nearly the number of travelers coming through. It's because of those tournaments, and people are coming, they're staying multiple days. Across the country, this is a survey that the Arizona Office of Tourism has conducted, and they give us an update every week. And so you can see that that timeline is showing how people have surveyed in the western region of the United States every single week. Those showing that they do or don't want to have tourists in their community. And you'll see that the blue lines strongly agree and agree. They're staying up there quite a bit. So what we're seeing is that about 60%, 6 out of 10 people do not want to see tourists come in their community. So if we were to try to host a festival right now, we already know this just from the tournaments. There was a lot of backlash from the local community. They didn't know the measures we were taking to make it a safe event. I think that we would have locals be a little bit, upside down if we were to try to have something this year. And as far as
this year, I know it's out, Josh.
I'm sorry?
This year I know it was out, but it's going to take
Yeah.
6 to 10 months to put something like this together. If we were thinking about 2021, we really got to start thinking.
Well, and so part of what I wanted to bring about, Gene, is not just what trends we're seeing as far as who wants to travel and whether communities want people coming in. When we've hosted Route 66 events in the past, and I actually had a couple meetings with our hoteliers and talking about the type of investment that goes on to putting something like that on. A lot of the hoteliers are more interested in seeing us put on tournaments, because the tournaments fill the hotel rooms over multiple days and for multiple nights. Not that we couldn't host a Route 66 festival. I think it's something that we could do. I just want to make sure that we kind of keep in mind the kind of investment and time that goes into putting on an event like that for the kind of return. For instance, the 2014 International Festival, we have the hotel numbers, and we know that there was about 114 room nights that were sold, about 75 on Friday and about 65 on Saturday. But we put $25,000 into that event, plus what the sponsors put in. Standing on the Corner Festival in Winslow, for example, they're in their 22nd year, and they still, out of about 2,000 people, only about 20-25% are out of area people. So it's 300 to 500 people come in for the 2 days. So, putting on an event like that, I think car shows and, depending on what we do, I just want to also entertain the idea of how do we get a good return on our investment, investing into events. And these tournaments are something that the hotelers are really keen about, because it's filling their hotel rooms, it's taking the money that's raised in the hotels and it's putting back to get people back into it. The other nice thing about those is that they match our new brand, our rugged, adventurous, and unafraid. It's sports, it's competitions, it's putting people in the parks out for outdoor experiences. When we look at putting on some other kind of event, another thing that we'd like is, to partner with a group, whether that's the Chillin' on Beale folks, but you look at like the street drags, there's a group that's dedicated that knows how to market to those people. The fun run, there's a group that's dedicated to that. I think the city, we've certainly got budgeting aside to help with putting on an event like that. But although we can assist, we can participate in it, we can help market it, we can help fund it, we can help, with some of the red tape to make sure permitting and street closures. We want to make sure that we've got a partner that's dedicated to put this together. And so coming up with some kind of idea that not only puts on an event, but it would have an incentive for someone to put it on, something where they can raise funds for their nonprofit group and actually get a return out of it, whether that's through spectators or participants.
Okay.
I guess that's what's so hard right now with this whole thing is how early can you start planning before you start losing money? Down in Bullhead, I'm on the board down for the chamber, and our meeting in June, we had already decided that we were pretty sure we were going to cancel Oktoberfest, and I actually disagreed. I was one of the few people in there that disagreed, but of course on the board you have CFOs from hospitals and things like that, which are very adamant, and they also know a lot more information than I do about this. But I guess, when it comes to a Route 66 Fest for 2021, we have to almost have a deadline, where we have to decide whether to do or not do it, and have it be a hard date where if things are uncertain, we don't want to invest money and manpower into starting to promote it. So it's a tough thing for sure.
Another tough thing is, if we want, and I think everyone's kind of thinking of the fall because we've got a lot of big events already in the spring. But when we look at the fall, we've got to kind of plan it around the fair. We got to plan it around Andy Divine Days, the rodeo. Got to plan it around the street drags. So really, it is, and we don't want to put it on top of the Oktoberfest and the Airfest. Trying to find that other weekend is, we really need to take a look at the calendar, sit down together. I don't know if you want to, Chairman, maybe create a subcommittee to look at this. Because I think putting a few heads together would really help us in planning.
Yeah,
Josh, I was thinking.
I think a subcommittee would be a good idea. I'm sure I can talk to Mr. Hinckley and myself, and maybe somebody else, and get with you and just bat it around a little bit. I mean, we still have COVID. I understand that. Hopefully, we'll get back to normal sometime for sure next year, I hope. And then, like I said, it would take a good part of 10 months, 8 or 10 months to put all this together. And the city's portion would only be maybe half of it. The car deal and all that stuff, I'm sure that the Chillin' on Beale people can handle most of that. So let's set a time down that we can sit down. I know Mr. Hinckley would be very much involved in that, and myself. How about you, Mr. Lasuri? You be thinking about something like that?
No, or opening it up to other people that are new to the commission if they're interested too.
Yeah, well, we could.
I also thought of when you mentioned about the international events, and there's all these other events. If there's also, besides gearing around, fall events or whatever, is if it could be sequential, perhaps in between some other events. So people go to an event on 66, they come to Kingman event on 66, and then they travel to the next one.
Yeah,
If,
well,
if there's a dateline for that.
Yeah, it has to be a neutral for sure.
Right.
No way we can run two events in the city at the same time. I mean, the draw would be split, and we don't ever want that.
Right.
So. Okay. So we can only have what, 3 people on the committee? We have 3 people on the committee? Yes. Okay, we can only have 3 people on the committee. Let's see if anybody else is interested, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, Jim is the most versed on Route 66 for sure. I just text him, but I know that doesn't really count if he's not actually on the call. But like, I would rather sit out to make sure that he and if someone else was interested in getting involved was involved, just because I am also helping out with the billboard marketing
Okay.
stuff.
Okay. Anybody else interested in that? If not, I'm sure that Mr. Hinckley and myself and Mr. Noble could start the conversation at least. Let's put it that way. Okay, well, why don't you mark it down that that'll be the subcommittee with Josh, myself, and Mr. Hinckley. You take care of that, Lisa. Put that down. That.
Well, I think maybe to make folks feel a real more assured is this is a committee to kick around ideas. This is not a committee to stick you with the festival.
No.
So this is just to come up with the ideas. And so kind of like, as Josh would put it, the brain trust and see what we can come up with here. And then the one thing I think, whatever I would charge the committee with, is that one of the elements that we have really been challenged with, and that is, when to do these things right is that volunteer base. So no matter what group we affiliate with, is the horsepower to put it on, so it doesn't fall back on that usual small group of people that are just busting their chops trying to make these things happen. So that's an element that I think is key to this.
I totally agree with that.
So if anybody else from the committee would like to step up, just again, this is just an expression of ideas.
I would like to, now that I'm unmuted.
That's great. That would be great. That'll be our 3. Josh, why don't you set up some time aside in the next month or so, and we can get together and just talk out some stuff. May not come to fruition with anything, but at least we got conversation going, and at least come up with maybe a general, hey, maybe if we did this, and start there. That sound good to you?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. I'll leave it up to you to contact the 3 of us and let us know the time and the date that fits everybody's needs, and we'll just sit down for maybe an hour or 2 and let's see where we go. Okay? All right, thank you. That sounds good. Okay, what do we got next? We got item G, Tourism Facebook Marketing Grant. Josh.
Okay.
You must be getting tired of talking.
I'll try not to make this too long. Let's see here. So I'm just going to share the form here. I'm trying to make, if I do this the full page, is that legible?
It is okay. For me anyway.
So this is part of our recovery program. One of the things we did is we set aside $10,000 to have a Facebook marketing grant available to businesses that cater to our traveling public. And what we would do is have them supply us with a campaign and images, and then we would work with them to develop target market, and then we would directly cover the boost, and we would do $200 per boost. So that allows us to do 50 different boosts. And we just launched this last Thursday, put it up on the website. They just put the press release out on it yesterday. But just kind of the nuts and bolts in it is that the strategic goals are to increase visitation to Kingman or increase return visitation and to increase visitor spending. To be an eligible participant, it needs to be a small business operating with a commercial site in the city of Kingman that conducts a substantial amount of transactions with the traveling public, either special retail, lodging, dining, attractions. And we chose those based on the Buxton survey and what the Buxton survey said that our visitor spend was in Kingman and was in these areas. Or it needs to be an organization or individual coordinating an event in the Kingman area that's expected to attract travelers. Eligible campaigns will be the products or services substantially offered to travelers that has an incentive to attract customers, such as unique offers, limited or seasonal offers, discounts, deals, or an event, because every event is something that's unique that can provide an experience for our travelers. Criteria are basically just following those same goals and guidelines. It needs to either increase new visitation or drive return visitors, and it should increase visitor spending in at least 2 different categories. Actually, let me pull the page down to the next one. So that would be in lodging, dining, retail, tourism, attraction, at least 2 of those areas. That's basically what it is. We've got the form up on our economic development website, choosekingman.com. It's an online submission only, and this PDF is up. People can download that to review what the guidelines are.
I think it's a great idea. It's awesome seeing something like this. It's going to help. And there's a lot of businesses that are a little bit, unsavvy with Facebook and understanding even what a boosted post is. So it's something that hopefully even like the Chamber of Commerce can help kind of get the awareness out and kind of educate these, really small boutiques and retailers, what it will in turn mean to them. So, but I think it's a great program.
Thank you.
Can somebody explain what a boost is?
So a boost is where you take a post, a video, an image, or an event that you put up on Facebook, and you pay to have that displayed to specific markets based on whatever guidelines you have, whether that's geographic or age or interests, the kind of things people are interested in. So if you wanted to boost a car show, you could decide, I want to have this displayed to people that are within a 50-mile radius of Las Vegas, that are this age range, that have interest in classic cars and festivals, for instance.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay, you got any more for us on that, Josh?
That's all I got. We're hoping this to be a successful thing. So as we build this, currently the posts are on our Facebook page. That gives it a little bit further reach, but it will be with link backs to their website, or if they're an event, to wherever they're selling their tickets, wherever they want to have that go. And we're hoping as we have more success with this next year, we'll be able to further expand this into Instagram as well, because that's a huge part of our marketing opportunity that we'll want to kick into. One platform at a time.
Yeah, next year's the key. This year is kind of a, it's been a flop for a lot of us. Anybody else got any questions for Josh? I know Josh is probably exhausted by now.
I would say that the chamber probably would be a good place to use. And I'm in the chamber right now, so I'll put a good word in for you, Josh. And hi, how are you?
Doing good. Good to see you, Randy.
Okay, something I probably should have done the first of the meeting is I want the 2 new commissioners to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them, and I want to welcome you both to the commission. We need different diversity in our commission, and I'm glad that you volunteered your time to us. Somebody want to go ahead?
I'll go ahead.
Yeah, this is excuse me. This is in number 6 announcements. Okay.
Okay.
So we stay on.
My legal name is Renaud, but I go by Rennie, and I live just down the street from Josh. I think you grew up there, didn't you, Josh?
Yep.
On Cactus Run. Been there since 1980. I'm fairly involved because of my wife, and that's Becky Foss and Rebecca, and she's very involved. She's got her thumb on the pulse of what everything is going on around here. So I get volunteered for a lot of things. But no, I'm appreciative that you're having me on the board, and I hope I can be of some benefit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Nikisiweya, and if it's easier to pronounce and it's clearer, you can just call me Nikki, and I'll probably change it on my little Zoom title here.
Okay.
Artistic background, artist, muralist. I'm working with hyperspace internet technologies, so familiar with some of the same things that Steve is with web design, hosting, Facebook marketing, Instagram. I love Instagram. I'm taking lots of pictures of Kingman and sharing them, and just really excited. I always, keep an ear out for accents whenever I'm out shopping, or someone who looks like they're dressed a little differently. And then I play the guessing game. Okay, what country are you from? But I always make sure to introduce myself and ask how long they're going to be, and say welcome to Kingman, and check out those license plates if you see someone with like I just happened to meet the director of operations over at Home 2 Suites in the parking lot at Safeway, and they're doing an expansion of another building there behind the old Safeway. Because he had the New Mexico license plate. So I was like, hey, where are you from? How long are you staying? So just sort of the personal welcome wagon.
Excuse me. You were also on the Queen City Commission for a while, right?
Yes, quite a while.
How many years were you on that?
I forget how long. I actually had to ask them. 6 or 7 years.
Well,
I don't know, a while.
Well, we're glad to have you. And past experience on
here.
commissions is rewarding. I'm telling you,
Yes.
I've been 22 years on commission, so I know it takes dedication. Thank you for your service to the city. Okay, does anybody else have any announcements or anything like that? I don't see anybody. Actually, I attended the other day the Governor's Council on Tourism. I went one day, and I think, Gary, is there a way that people can look at that online or something? I thought it was kind of interesting the day that I went.
I think that that's probably something I should just pass on to Josh. I believe that they were going to provide us with a follow-up to probably screening Josh and or make all the presentations available.
Is that something we can do, Josh?
Sorry, I had to unmute there. Yeah, they're going to have those presentations up on the Arizona Office of Tourism industry website. That's tourism.az.gov. I'm just checking to see if they have those up now. If you'd like, I can send out the link to that to everybody.
Could you please, Josh? It was actually, it was boring in a way, but because it wasn't a live thing like today, but it's kind of hard to do it that way. But there was some really good information, and I didn't get to go to any of the breakout sessions. And I think that there was quite a bit of discussion in there that's pertinent to this commission. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
Okay, I will do that.
All right, if there's no further announcements, discussion, or anything, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Did everyone chime in if they agree with it, please?
Aye.
Hi.
I got it. Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the inconvenience of this. I hope one day we get back to the chamber so we can all get together and maybe meet in person, our new commissioners, and reconnect with our commissioners that we haven't seen for a while. Thank you so much for your service to the city, and I'll see you in, there'll be a meeting in 2 months, and I'll see you then. Thank you.
You guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye now.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.